It's been a little bit over 2 weeks since the NAR $418 million settlement, and it appears that NAR is doing a much better job of getting in front of the camera, sending out letters, writing op-eds, and really being out there and championing real estate agents. This is probably, I'm looking at an email right now, it's probably in the past 2 weeks, it's probably the 8th video that has come from the president, Kevin Sears. So that's good, right? We're at least getting some additional feedback. We're getting some updates on what is happening and what's not happening. And there's at least a perception, and beyond a perception, but at least a perception that something is happening in terms of communicating to the general public, communicating with those buyers, communicating with those sellers that you and I have to face on a day-to-day basis. So with that being said, we're going to actually look at an op-ed that was published by the NAR Realtor Party Community Engagement Liaison. That's a mouthful, but that's Tim Herr, which is very well put together, and it's actually on Fortune magazine. So this is not a no-name magazine. This is actually on Fortune.com. So I thought it was very well written, and it was worth a look over, especially for those that have not been following that closely on what's actually happening right now. This is a really good way for you to catch up, both from what's being shared out in the wild, aka buyers and sellers, from the media, and also what actually changed. So it kind of blends together the two entities here. So 90% of home buyers have historically opted to work with real estate agent or a broker. Here's why that's unlikely to change according to the National Association of Realtors. So again, this is an op-ed by Tim Herr, the NAR Realtor Party Community Engagement Liaison. All right, so this article comes to us courtesy of Fortune.com. The $418 million settlement and the practice changes it will usher in have led some to speculate that real estate agents are at risk of becoming obsolete. As someone who has practiced real estate for 15 years, nothing could be further from the truth. Now, I know it sounds a little bit hyperbolic, but that's really what a lot of individuals out there, the first immediate response when people were hearing about the NAR settlement was, good. Good. Real estate agents are greedy. Real estate agents are this. Real estate agents are that. And good thing that they're going away. They're a nuisance. They're a pest. And I mean, it's not something that, being in the profession, it's not something that you enjoy hearing, obviously. But at the same time, being a realist and understanding that the consumer sentiment on the real estate agent perception is not all that high, right? So there's a lot of equivalencies that they make to of real estate agents to used car salesmen, to the favorability of politicians. So there's a lot of pent-up frustration towards real estate agents because at closing table, you see some whopping numbers when it comes to commission. Now, there's a lot of short-sightedness from those individuals that have that perception that real estate agents are greedy. They don't recognize that the median the median salary or the median income for most real estate agents is actually very, very low. It's almost equatable to minimum wage. So they also don't realize that over 85% of agents fail. So that, all of that is either brushed aside or is a lot of consumers are unaware of that's happening. They just see a $10,000 commission and get frustrated because, heck, I found the property off of Zillow and I sent it to you. You went and opened the door and that was about it, right? So that's where a lot of that consumer sentiment comes up. So the whole, even almost the wishful thinking from individuals thinking that this settlement meant the end of real estate agents becoming obsolete. That's not really all that hyperbolic. A lot of individuals actually feel that way right now. Little do they know that what they were being informed was really not actually the truth. Anyway, specifically, the settlement will prohibit offers of compensation from being shared on the MLS, the databases that show real estate brokers the properties for sale, and will require MLS participants to enter into written agreements with their buyers. So when it comes to this settlement, these are two major blocks. These are two major things that came from this settlement. So I would say these are the major points. The offer of compensation, it's not that it goes away altogether. The seller can still, as you'll see later on in this article, seller can still offer co-op, if you will, co-op compensation. That's still the thing, but it just cannot be offered through the MLS. So here it's NAR stepping back from any association to commissions, because a big complaint, or the genesis of the complaint, was that there was price fixing, that there was collusion, that MLS was requiring a standard 6% commission and all that fun stuff. Did I say MLS? That NAR was setting the commission, and that's where the whole collusion thing came up. So that was a big thing, that the offer compensation is not offered on the MLS any longer, although it can still be offered in other mediums, but it just cannot be done through the MLS any longer. And that also, there has to be written agreements for buyers. Now, why is that the case? Whenever agents are working with buyers, you need to be very transparent on what services are being covered and where the money is coming from, who's going to pay for it, how much it's going to be. So that transparency in their eyes, that transparency of what the services that are being rendered, and the expense for those services, where before it wasn't all that clear in their eyes of where the money was coming from. So there's those two main changes: the offer compensation through the MLS and the written agreements that agents need to have with their buyers before anything happens, before they show a home. Now, it's important to note that the National Association of Realtors does not set commissions, and nothing in this proposed settlement could change that. Commissions would continue to be negotiable among buyers, sellers, and their brokers. There's nothing that I could add to that. That's very, very clear. Consumers continue to have options when it comes to compensating the brokers they work with. Some consumers may opt to pay a fixed fee for their broker services. In other cases, a seller may offer a concession on the sales price, which could be used by the buyer to help compensate their broker. In other cases, listing agents may offer a portion of their compensation to buyer's agents, as long as the offer compensation does not occur on an MLS. That broke down, so well written. That broke down the three ways of compensation. So the first one, right off the top, you see in that first paragraph, where some consumers may opt to pay a fixed fee for their broker services. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a fixed fee. It could a fee of any kind, if you will. That would be directly with the buyer's agent. Now, in other cases, so the second way that agents can get compensated, a seller may offer a concession on the sales price, which could be used by the buyer to help compensate their broker. So as an offer goes in, this is what I'm offering for the home, and this is the concession that I ask that you cover my buyer agent, right? So that's the second form of compensation. So it's a house by house case in this particular situation. And then the normal, or the more traditional, the way that it has been for a while now, the co-ops, where listing agents may offer a portion of their compensation to buyer's agents, as long as the offer compensation does not happen on the MLS. So essentially is what we just talked about, where the offer compensation is still there, but it just cannot be communicated through the MLS. Those are the three ways that compensation is still happening. Historically, 90% of home buyers have opted to work with a real estate agent or broker. That figure is unlikely to change. I was unaware it was this high, to be completely candid with you, but that's actually a good thing. In my opinion, it's a good thing, given that home buyers prior to 1996 weren't represented by anybody. They were, quote unquote, represented by a sub-agent, somebody that was actually still working for the home seller, so didn't have a home buyer's interest. So at this point, you had a lot more people that, especially first-time home buyers, that were better equipped to negotiate, that were better equipped to work in this real estate transaction, especially since even if this is your third home or your fourth home, chances are you're several years removed from doing that experience, right? So you're not really all that equipped as a consumer, as a buyer, to do this, without having additional experience, if you will, without having more up at bats that will ultimately allow you to get a better deal and really avoid a lot of stress and save a lot of money. All right, so this goes into a bit of the value proposition. So if you've been struggling to articulate your value proposition, what you do for clients to really solidify, hey, what are the aspects? What are some things that I do for my client? I know about what I do just in, I wouldn't say in theory, but like more in practice, but how can I actually articulate it? So it gives you a few points to consider. Again, this is for those of you that are struggling to get the value proposition down, and communicating that to the buyers is a good way to do that, because he goes into really good examples. Agents and buyers demystify local markets and neighborhoods and provide access to extensive information about available homes. We help prospective buyers determine the realistic budgets and research varied financing options, including programs that may be able to help buyers with a down payment. So there's that prep, there's the experience of neighborhoods, there's that information about the homes that, again, somebody that is either purchasing their first home and or is purchasing their second home, but it's been 10 years since they bought their first one. Well, they may not have that information. In fact, they wouldn't have that information. So that's why it's important to have a real estate professional alongside. Now, the second part, seasoned agents and brokers also offer insights into property values, taxes, regulations, and zoning laws while overseeing thorough due diligence processes. And we connect buyers and sellers with other reputable real estate related professionals such as attorneys, lenders, contractors, and inspectors, any of which can make or break a transaction. So there's that quarterbacking of the transaction at the end of the day. So you're providing all this information that should be considered by a consumer and pairing that with real estate professionals that can help the transaction along in a cohesive way. When it comes time to make or evaluate offers, real estate professionals have a decades-long track record as skilled negotiators, ensuring that their clients submit the most competitive bids for their dream home or hold out for what their home is really worth. And at the settlement table, we help our clients confidently close on what is likely the most significant financial transaction of their lives. This goes into establishing the negotiation, how a transaction should be going to help somebody maximize, depending on what side of the table you're on, either help with the return on investment if you're selling the home, and or get a home, for one, get the home, but two, get it at a competitive price if the market actually dictates that, is open to that. And even post-sale, real estate agents and brokers are crucial advisors for their clients, providing ongoing support, answering queries, and offering guidance as people confront the challenges and delights of home ownership. So it's not just that transaction alone. So you and I both know that whenever you close a transaction, you're being asked, hey, who's your lawn person? Hey, who's your handyman? Hey, who's your pool person? Hey, who's your blah, blah, blah. You get a lot of requests for your database, for your Rolodex, for your connections, for your network. So this is something that, although we find it oftentimes a bit annoying that we get asked to coffee by every single professional out there, or at least I do, maybe I'm projecting, but at the end of the day, these individuals that do try to court us are trying to add themselves into our database, into our Rolodex, so then we can connect them to our network. And there's nothing wrong with that. I just don't like going out as much. So essentially what I'm getting at here is that even post the sale, the more valuable that you can make yourself from a network perspective, from having those contacts, from having those handymen, from having the go-to people that you trust and now you can share with your clients, the more value that you provide to your clients altogether. But I thought this was a really good step forward in the situation that we find ourselves in. And I made a joke earlier that, it's like I've been hearing quite a bit from the president here in this past 2 weeks, where before I hadn't really heard or seen anything from NAR outside of all the scandals and all that fun stuff. But this is a good step forward. I've seen several members of NAR, whether it's their legal team or the president and other key individuals, going on podcasts, going on videos, if you would like for them to make an appearance on this channel, happy to make that series happen, along with other major brokers if that's something you want to see. But at the end of the day, I like that they are public facing now. They're providing a bit more information. They're providing more guidance for real estate agents whom they're designed to support, but also they're making efforts out into the general wild of being an advocate for the real estate agent profession, which is something that they should have been doing and had been doing, to their credit. Maybe not as effectively as we would like, but they had been an advocate for the profession altogether. So now being a little bit vocal, that won't hurt. Let me know what you think down in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.